Hi everyone, it's Sam here, and today we're going to be looking at the next section of Matthew. So if you can all grab a Bible, and we're going to turn to Matthew 20, and I'm going to start reading from verse 1. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About 9 in the morning, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. He went out again about noon and about 3 in the afternoon and did the same thing. About 5 in the afternoon, he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first." The workers who were hired about 5 in the afternoon came and each received a denarius. So when those came who were hired first, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. "These who were hired last worked only 1 hour," they said, "and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day." But he answered one of them, "I am not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous?" So the last will be first, and the first will be last. So it seems a bit unfair, doesn't it, that those who only worked 1 hour were paid the same as those who'd slaved away all day since about 6 in the morning. I think if I was one of the people that had started at 6 in the morning, I'd be quite annoyed. I think we feel this way because often we think that the reward should reflect how hard we've worked for it. So are we right to feel frustrated at this situation? So God doesn't operate like that. Everyone gets what they need. But still, even then, surely the early workers should get more as they've worked longer and they've created more value for the landowner. But we need to remember a couple of things. Firstly, the landowner can decide what he wants to do. He can choose to not hire anyone. And the first workers, they agreed to work for a denarius. And secondly, we're not like the early workers. Actually, each one of us are like the workers who were hired towards the end of the day. So in the story, the landowner gave the workers what they needed and not what they deserved. So back in those days, especially for the poorer families, a day's pay would actually feed their family for the day. So not getting work would potentially be quite bad for that family. And yet when the landowner hired these late workers, he didn't actually need more workers. Yet he showed them compassion and hired them so they could get the money they needed to survive. So it may not have been fair, and it wasn't giving each person maybe what they deserved, as you'd expect to, but it does show a great picture of God's joyful grace. God isn't interested in a holiness competition. We are like those 5 p.m. workers. We have an amazing, generous God who loves us, forgives us, and gives us peace with him that we didn't even earn or deserve. So yeah, that's my little thought from that passage. So I'm just going to pray to finish. Dear Lord, thank you for this chance to just look at your word and learn from it. Thank you that you are generous and you give us what we need and not what we deserve. And I pray that you just help us to remember this, especially when things seem unfair. Amen.